Welcome to the Healthy and Wealthy Retirement, where your certified retirement counselor, Mark Struthers, takes a holistic approach to retirement, going beyond finances and embracing holistic well-being. This YouTube channel will address not just the financial part of retirement, but also the social, the physical, and the emotional parts of retirement. Everything you need for healthier, a wealthier, and a happier retirement. Here is your host, Mark Struthers.
Welcome to the Healthy and Wealthy Retirement. I am Mark Struthers, and today we are talking about Mega Backdoor Roth. And it sounds cool, and it is pretty cool, but just tossing the word mega, it reminds me of those monster truck rallies. The ground's already shaking. The Mega Backdoor Roth, or super large backdoor Roth, is not to be confused with a normal backdoor Roth, and that's a separate podcast. This one is designed to operate most often within your work 401k. As a reminder, with Roth assets, they're never taxed in the future. It's taxable going in, but tax-free coming out. Earnings and contributions, assuming certain rules are met. One of the biggest things with a mega backdoor Roth is you have to have a lot of free income. The reason being, you really have to max out your employee contribution, which if you're over 50 for 2024, that is all the way up to over $30,000. $23,000 if you are under 50. This YouTube podcast, now folks who are under 50 are going to find it useful, but this is mostly at folks who are in their 50s and 60s or even in retirement. So you have to have a lot of free cash flow. But for a lot of folks, if they can do it, it is pretty cool. And I will point out that I think one of the Secure Acts, this I think was on the chopping block. I think as they look to find more tax revenue with budgets and spending being the way they are, it was slated to be eliminated. But it was not. And, I would go with the flow for now. If you're on the fence, that might push you over to say at some point these might be made illegal. One way to think about these, the reason a mega works is to think about kind of different buckets, that your 401k is like one big pie or has several different buckets in it. And maybe buckets is a better analogy. So you have your employee contributions, your employer contributions, and those can be Roth or traditional. The employer contributions have always been traditional. That is changing here at some point in the future. But you also have not just traditional and Roth, but you have what I call really NARAT, so non-Roth after tax, NAR or NRAT. It's like making a non-deductible IRA contributions. You don't get a tax deduction, but it's not in the Roth, and it goes into this third bucket, if you will. And so you have traditional, you have Roth, and then you have this third bucket, this third piece of the pie, where you can make larger contributions than most people realize. The reason being the rule as far as the max contribution to the 401k is quite high. So over 50, it's $76,500 because you have the $7,500 catch-up provision. That catch-up provision you have for IRAs as well. Now, it's not the same amount, but and even HSA is a different age, but even with HSAs. So that is quite high. And then for someone under 50, it's $69,000. So, and for those of you that are watching on YouTube, we'll flash up a graphic that gives you an example that if you're over 50, you're looking to really max things out. So you have a total contributions available between you and the employer of $76,500. That is a lot of money. This is a luxury. This is a good problem to have if you can do it. And say you max out your employee contributions with the catch-up of $30,500. And do notice that the max that you can put into the 401k is increased by that $7,500 over 50 or 50 and over catch-up contribution. So you have your total available contribution between employer of $76,500 because you're over 50. And then, and part of that is you can contribute as an employee $30,500 with the $7,500 catch up. And remember, these figures change each year. So, don't get too hung up on the exact number. If you're looking at 2025, the numbers are probably going to change. Not a lot. The most important thing is that you kind of understand the concept. And we're going to assume an employer match of, say, $3,000. So you take the $76,500, and even if you're listening to the podcast, you can probably kind of do this in your head. And then you subtract out what the employee and employer put in kind of a normal situation. So $33,500, and that leaves $43,000 of unused potential. Now the employer could certainly contribute more, and that number would be reduced. But that's where the Mega Backdoor Roth is. In our example, you could contribute if the plan allows. And I don't think I actually hit on that quite as hard as I should have. If the plan allows, a lot of plans don't allow the non-Roth after-tax contributions. They just don't do it. But there are some that do. So it's worth looking into. So the $43,000 then can be made by the employee. And what happens quite often is you are able to do a Roth conversion. Again, it's like a backdoor Roth. To make the contribution, you don't get the deduction. It's not Roths until you actually convert it, then you convert it. Some plans might even allow you to have it stay there. Now, keep in mind that gets a little complicated because you have non-Roth after-tax dollars and you have earnings that are pre-taxed, and that if you do convert it, that portion would be taxable. So one of the FYIs I have is hopefully you can automate it. Not all plans allow this, where you're going to have to actually manually go in there and do it. If there is any growth in the assets when they're in there, that's going to be taxable because that growth hasn't been taxed and they're not Roth dollars. Also, some plans do allow you to kind of designate different withholdings. So a lot of folks do this with like a bonus. If you're a well-paid manager, director, and you have a large bonus and you're living off of off your normal earnings, that's a chance where you might be able to do a backdoor Roth. Also, some plans do allow you to roll that 401k into a Roth IRA. Now, not all plans are going to allow this. I mean, and you could kind of understand why, because there's a lot of bookkeeping that goes on here. But some plans allow you to do it actually almost instantaneously, where you can put it in, convert it, then roll it out. So you're just kind of moving it around to different account types. That is pretty cool. That is mega. But just keep in mind, anytime you're moving funds from a 401k to an IRA of any kind, just be aware of the pros and cons. People like it because of more control. It's not tied to your employer, and you have much larger investment options. But you also lose out on things as some protection from lawsuits, creditor protections, and it's going to vary with each state. Sometimes the fees in 401ks are lower for the investments. Not always. Sometimes they're actually quite a bit higher. 401ks often have kind of stable value or guaranteed investment contracts. There's like a money market fund that has a minimum amount available to you. Those you can't get in an IRA. Another FYI, make sure to avoid any penalties. Just make sure you know your plan's rule. If you violate one of your plan's rules, quite often they could punish you by not allowing you to contribute, which would mean you would also miss out on the match plus any tax deduction or anything like that. Lastly, another FYI, part of the Secure Act, and I would be surprised if this one got moved again, You see this a lot with FAFSA, and some of these rules, they get pushed down the line or changed or modified. That if higher earners that are over 50 and doing a catch-up, the catch-up has to be Roth dollars. So that's just a word of caution. Because quite often, if you folks who have enough income to do a mega backdoor Roth, they're quite often in higher earners, higher tax brackets. Quite often, not always, but quite often they are in situations where maybe Roths making a normal Roth contribution isn't the best thing. They want those tax deduction, but they're trying to just get as much money as they can to retirement accounts, and they're kind of maxed out the accounts that get the tax deduction. So there you have it. This Mega Backdoor Roth is a great way for some folks who, especially if you're approaching retirement, and maybe your kids are on their own, that maybe you could sock away a bunch of money in Roth dollars that you didn't think you could do. And there's no income limits because it's within the 401k. It's not like you're trying to make a Roth IRA contribution limit. So using a Mega Backdoor Roth could be one of the things that helps you have a healthier, a wealthier, and a happier retirement. Stay well, everyone. Don't forget to hit subscribe because you want a healthy and wealthy and happy retirement. Take care, folks.